Go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I don't remember none of this stuff. Like, I really don't.
I want to know, like, do you wake up and just look outside and just, well, first of all, you give your, gratitude for your life and everything, your beautiful wife and your, like, everything you just created, and just say, you know what, today I choose violence. I want to piss everyone off on social media, especially Twitter. You in those Twitter hands, I cannot let you alone for like 10 minutes. And there's another retweet, and there's another retweet to your original retweet. I'm not even on Twitter like that. And I'm just like, what is going on? What is going on, Lawrence? Like,
for one, I don't see the retweets. So that's the first thing. First thing you gotta know about me is, it's like, I'm in and out of social media. I have if there is a ADHD, if it's really a thing, I might have had it for a time in my life. I'm very quick with what I see on social media, or what I interact with, what I read. I just bounce around fairly quickly. But I also don't follow majority of these people that, I guess if you say that they're retweeting, I wouldn't know about it, because I don't know why. Maybe it's just a setting that I have on my Twitter or something, so on and so forth. But I generally don't know about all the retweets and all the conversations. If there is conversation being had, I actually have no idea, and I actually still don't care. But you're right. When I wake up in the morning, I generally just I chill. I actually use Twitter as my notepad as such. And I explained it to somebody else yesterday.
A public notepad.
Yeah, it is a public notepad. But when somebody, I think he was trying to ask me, like, oh, you just, you put this on for clickbait. I'm like, but you replied to this, so therefore you click, so therefore, I don't know, it's a weird philosophical thing. But ultimately, like, you don't even know why I do, but you assume and presume too much. Every tweet that I ever drop is always it challenges you. It's not supposed to be, it's not a, hey, kumbaya, hey, let's do this. I've noticed that we've been going the wrong way as a community for a very long time. And then we also get supremely angry, mad, or sad, or frustrated with the results. But I'm like, this is the reason why you have this problem. Like, you're emotionally unsound. When you come to me, when you just say, oh, I have financial trouble, I'm like, man, my first inclination, is that you're broke. There's nothing else beyond my mind besides that you're broke, or you're struggling with money. Broke is, I guess, is sensitive and charged now in 2023 because everybody's oversensitive. But the idea is that you are poor. You don't have the money, because you wouldn't be so bothered even by the nature of me posting the tweet.
Okay,
that's how bothered you are. You broke. You're like, I could tell. I could feel it.
Okay.
Like, my initial, and that's why I write what I do as well. It's not a weird thing that I wrote. I actually said my first inclination that you're broke. And if we had to keep it 100%, if everybody actually dealt with their financial challenges in a way that actually moved them or progressed them ahead, they'll find that majority of the real issues that they had was non-existent. So I've been in the space of being super poor. I've been in the space where I blamed, and I said that in the conversation we had in the group chat, I used to blame my dad over and over for any time that when my life was going good. It never dawned upon me that my dad wasn't around. But the moment something went south in my life, or I lost a bit of control, whatever it was, I was always blaming it because I did not have a father in my life. Like, he wasn't around. He owes me this. In my mind, it's just the easiest thing for the human psychosis to kind of grab onto, is to blame somebody else and make them the reason why you failed at this, that, or the third. And to be honest, the guy was never in my life. How the hell does he have any?
All right, so that's a very long intro. Hey. But if you're tuning in right now, thank you so much for tuning to another episode of the Financial Griot, aka TFG. I'm one of three of the co-hosts. Alainta, Alcin. And here at TFG, we just love sharing our stories, our perspective, all in all. And the purpose is becoming the better you, better me, better us as a community. And just for some context, as Lawrence is doing his slight tangent,
It was a
so
rant. It was
a rant
response.
tangent response. So if you do follow Lawrence on Twitter or any social media space, his platform and brand is the Neighborhood Finance Guy. And if you know Lawrence, as I may know him personally, but you just know him on the media sphere, right? Lawrence is Tweety friendly, if you will. And you know, he doesn't steer away from controversy or steer away from just having his own opinion and thoughts. So recently, I'll say the other day, again, if you follow the Neighborhood Finance Guy, Lawrence tweeted, it's quote that states, when people say they have hashtag financial trauma, my first instinct, they are broke with the emoji. Let's keep it 100. Most people trauma issues can be solved with earning more money and managing it efficiently. Instead of discussing your issues nauseous,
It was
solve
supposed to be ad
them.
nauseum, but
Nauseum.
hey,
Okay,
English is not my first
okay,
language, so.
okay. I'm not right. As long as you notice that one, ad nauseous.
I've been knowing I make mistakes. Let's go.
Solve them. Hashtag financial literacy 101. And as you guys know, with TFG and Financial Griot, we are in the, I guess, financial influencer, semi whatever, that ecosystem. And yeah, he went kind of semi-viral here. Well, at least amongst the ecosystem of financial literacy.
Amongst the sensitive folks.
if you will, right? But yeah, people really up in arms about it. And I was in the WhatsApp group chat. People had some words to say. It wasn't too bad. It was just like, you're wrong, basically, right? But yeah, it's getting a lot of response. In the midst of this, if you are on social media, there was sometimes earlier this week, Gabrielle Union clip came out, an interview where she kind of expressed some level of financial trauma, where she feels as though she has to constantly work, not only take care of her own household with her husband and her family, but also like her, I guess, extended family, her primary family, cousins, mom, dad, and whomever, right? So she always feel like the wheel has to continuously turn, and it's almost like give her this angst or anxiety where she constantly have to work. Money has to come in. So I think people are taking that clip, and again, I haven't listened to the entire context of that interview, because you know how a lot of these media platforms, they already want to cut up and snip things to let it go viral. Because I think the only thing a lot of people heard was her and her husband go 50-50. And honestly, it is what it is. They're both millionaires. Like, whatever works for their household, I don't see what people up in arms about. But yeah, I think people took that tidbit and kind of ran with it. But there are other people in the context of this conversation and discussion, is they took that portion where she expressed some level of financial trauma along with what Lawrence has tweeted. And I will say, well, knowing Lawrence, me personally, knowing Lawrence from college, and just my evolution growing up, and slightly minty under you, and just being a close friend, I know you for being very stoic, and you look at things very matter of factly, right? And you acknowledge and empathize with people a certain extent, but you also understand that a lot of problems and issues are very solution based versus mental based. I think sometimes you express this in the past, especially on the podcast, where people lean too much into that emotional base without actually thinking more logically, where it can be solved logically. But again, if you follow the Neighborhood Finance Guy, a lot of people have been kind of retweeting saying like, hey, Lawrence, you're wrong. What are you talking about? Like, more money doesn't, they're expressing their belief where you cannot solve financial trauma with more money, right? And I think your point kind of got lost in that, because they see that, it doesn't matter if you're not in the good, mindset and headspace. And knowing you for who you are, Lawrence, I took it because I know you personally, right? But I think they took it more on the emotional sense, like, hey, you need to get your mind right, your mindset right. You can't spend money and have these issues and think that all your problems going to be solved with more money, right? And you're almost on the opposite, like, well, if you're manage it efficiently, you can solve it with more money. But I don't think that was, you know, expressed too much. I did kind of seen it the
wasn't
other way.
Received doesn't mean that
right?
the message is not the same. I think it goes back to Eddie Griffin that says most people, it's not necessarily the message, the messenger. So if they don't like the messenger, then the message is not received. So let's say if one of the quote unquote people that's prominent in displaying what financial trauma is, if he said the same statement, they would have been like, oh, they would have been more like, oh, I understand. I'm more receptive, because they like the messenger more than they understand the message. 9 times out of 10, too, the people that are reading this as well, when they read it, it almost like it hit them in a different space where they couldn't read the actual context, and they completely missed it. Like in their minds, it felt like a personal attack on them. And that's why they did it. And some people, because they're in this kind of space and they make their bread and butter, to quote Dave Chappelle, they make their money off this stuff. So the moment that you say anything about it, it's almost like they're attacking, or they're reacting because it's their bread and butter.
I will give you some pushback though.
Okay, go ahead. I ain't completely done with it. So if you read it, and when I write stuff too, it's not like I'm not an idiot. I know if I'm gonna be crass to you, I've always been crass. I've never been a person that's like, I guess I don't beat around the bush for whatever it is. So I wrote it the way I did because I thought it was actually apropos. When people say that they have financial power, Lawrence's first instinct is to say, hey, these people that are coming to me within my neighborhood, within my sphere of influence, within my environment of friends who are always struggling with money, is that they are broke. This is my first instinct. That's almost like my experience with when people say they're struggling and they have trauma. That's the first thing. And then I was like, hey, if I had to keep it 100 with them, if most people went out their way and they fixed their money trauma issues by actually earning more money, basically being at work, being physically tasked, being completely involved in the process of being productive, as well as end up managing their money in a way that is financially literate, they would find that the majority of their issues becomes moot point. So you can't put all that in a tweet. So I can only put so few words. So that's the words that I chose to use. But people kind of went off the deep end because, to be honest with them, some of them are broke. And I think they have a problem with the word broke. I don't have a problem with the word broke. I've been poor as shit. Without the O and the R. You know what I mean? Like, I know what that is. I'm very familiar with it. I'm very familiar with starving. Some of these people, I'm like, your faces are fat. I know your faces. Look at y'all. Y'all been eating good for a very long time, and then you're hit with a wall, and it's called disappointment, and then y'all a little bit like sad. Look at you, man. I look at you people. I look at a lot of these quote people that retweeted or they had their commentary, and I could tell they've been through some stuff. But I'm like, it's first world problem. When they tossed out a person like Gabrielle Union is struggling with financial, this is a self-inflicted wound. I looked her up. Like, I guess her net worth is estimated at 40 million. Her husband net worth is at 170. She's nowhere near none of us. She don't have no real problems. She could pay 50-50. She could not pay. This is a self-inflicted wound. If she feels like she wants to pay for the rest of her family, that's on her. If she feels like she doesn't have to, then that's also on her. We cannot label everything as trauma if you're inflicting the same trauma on your damn self. It's kind of ridiculous. It's pointless. It is the most like 2023 millennial progressive leftist or whatever ideology you can ever have, which is so like out there, so entitled to, oh, I have problems and everybody should take care of me. Look at me. Like, solve them like the rest of the world does. Like people that have been pulled due all the time. We solve our problems. We don't sit there and, I guess, I'm a tweet. I feel bad. oh, everybody needs to talk about trauma, all financial trauma at every intersection of life, because it remixes my life into the parameters of which the systematic oppression has faulted me and has forced me to think of myself as the lesser of. I'm like, no, stop getting that damn deep. Go get a job, and actually solve your problem with becoming wealthy. That's it. That is the solution. But okay, I'm gonna get off the.
I will pull back. I will ask you, what was this energy when this person came on and talked about it? Because this person actually,
oh yeah, they called me out.
They called you out. So where was this energy?
They called me out. This person is Sabri. He called me out of it. I'm gonna call his name. This is what it is. He called me out and he says, "Yo, where was his energy when he came on the podcast?" And I'll be honest with everybody here. Like, if you come to my house, I will treat you, basically with what I call like mean respect or median respect. So if my wife respects you, I respect you. If, they came on the podcast and it was, a guest that you brought on and so on and so forth, I'm going to just kind of generally ease back and not be the quote unquote, the realist version of myself. Because this was not an attack on him. It's like, this is not a trauma doesn't exist statement. This is mean that, hey, there's different ways to solve it. If he chooses to solve it in a way that just discuss it all day, all night and make money off of it and pull ride issues and also clout shade issues, that's on him. But that's not the way I solve my problems. And that's just two different ways. If that's your way that you want to choose to solve your problem in your life right now, as you're listening to this, that's on you. It does nothing to me. However, if I choose to solve my problems more directly, in a way that actually finds resolutions and actually finds peace for me, then why are you mad at me? Does that make any sense?
No, absolutely. That does make sense.
It's the most hypocritical. It's just pure hypocrisy of the of openness and understanding and embracing others. This is all hypocrisy, because in the end, if you do not follow just what the other person says, and therefore, some way, somehow, you're now the Antichrist, right?
But I will say, and just be a little bit of a devil advocate is to
you
say
don't have
that.
To be a devil. Just say how you feel.
I'm gonna say how you know me. I'm gonna say how I feel.
You ain't gonna say be a devil. That's like.
But no. I was gonna ask you. I was gonna ask you. Anyways, is that, don't you think there is some connection of like when it comes to behavior in money and spending, you can't always just label making more money to solve the issue. There's some level of this mental health that you have to have within yourself to kind of why you're doing the things that you do, like a psychological component. If you're giving a person, and someone did say this, if you're giving a person money,
which is why,
and you use Wall Street, that you use that Wall Street one, and I was like, I don't think that was a good example.
Wait, I made that comment. Earning more money and managing it.
Yeah.
Efficiency. I forget what that word is in English grammar, but it's the conjunction. It's not or, it's not it's and, it's in combination with. It is together. You make more money, but you end up managing it efficiently. That is a comboed statement. That is what financial literacy is all about. It's about the knowledge of, the creation of, but also the management of money. That's where a lot of people miss out on. Yes,
but if you're acknowledging,
you could have money, could have money, but you mismanage it, that's on you still.
Right, LG.
You still need to do whatever that work is.
But there's even the level or the skill, acknowledge it. That's a level of self-awareness that you have to have some form of just mental capacity to know yourself, or at least understand why your behavior or pattern is doing what you're doing.
Did I say some way, somehow the person does not do work? Because I said, instead of discussing all your issues ad nauseum, that means ad nauseum, that means you already discussed it. You can't discuss it ad nauseum. That means over and over and over again. You'll be better off solving your issues, which is maybe my personal gripe with any form of long form conversation. I get it. You have a problem. I get it. It feels bad. I'm feeling a little sad today. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, you might have to buck up and meet your challenges and actually overcome them. Doesn't mean you overcome them tomorrow night. It doesn't mean you overcome them, like 2 or 3 months from now. But in some way, shape, or form, I'd rather be in the other side where I actually ended up solving them than staying in the cultural zeitgeist where you just stay in this cultural powwow kumbaya and trauma dumping amongst each other. I just
But you
don't find
do,
that
but you
productive.
do you, okay, I get that part. But do you agree that trauma, it is, there is some level of financial, people place some trauma in terms of their money behaviors, of things that have
Everybody
happened
has
to
money
them?
behaviors. Everybody has behaviors, period. As far as even how we wake up in the morning, how we even, when do we eat breakfast? What do we eat for breakfast? Cultural identity within food, whatever it is. Human beings are very complicated creatures. But you can't just sit there and say, well, because, I ate plantains in the morning, then my life is now suffering from da 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 da. Like, come on, move the hell on. At some point, I've never said it doesn't exist. To be very clear, did I write in the tweet that financial trauma does not exist? Nah. I said my first instinct is that they're broke, and if they fix some of those issues, they'll probably end up solving them. It's almost like it could be even a theory. It could be, it's an ideal. It's a way that you can actually approach your problem and actually solve them. Because not everybody is even good in the space where they just keep talking about their issues. Some people actually have to solve their issues in order for them to actually overcome them.
But in your tweet, LG, you said most money trauma issues can be solved with earning more money
and yes,
managing it efficiently. But you didn't add that, including all the other stuff you just said.
How many characters?
I'm just saying.
Characters am I allowed?
I'm just saying what I'm seeing here on Twitter.
And you're right, and
I think that's why people kind of like.
I will give you even that latitude or that room to say that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, yo. Do you know that these things are like, I forget the many characters you get, but it's just not enough. So you're just saying the bare minimum, if anything, and then you move on. And it's not just this tweet. I tweet about, I guess investing. I tweet about budgeting. I tweet about cash flow management. Yeah. I tweet about net worth, but yet nobody has a comment of that. Why? Because at the end of the day, yet again, the same people that saw this financial trauma one are not commenting on everything else. So it needs to tell me that, yo, you know what? Maybe they're broke. Maybe that's part of
you don't have to say it like
hypothetically, like if you could see that, but you saw nothing else the entire time. Some people never liked a damn thing. It was until this one, I guess they felt the need to comment on this one. But so that means you actually saw anything else I post. It's weird. It's a very selective outrage scenario, but that's just me.
No, I get it. I definitely get it. I was trying to understand what was the semi outrage or selective outrage too much. I can see why people may feel that way, but I don't know. Like,
but the reason that you feel this way, and this is the truth, is because you also listed it's not that big of a deal what he said. Right. It's just his opinion. Right. He said his opinion, and that's it. Yeah, because that's it. That's a balanced person. You are a balanced individual. You might not believe it to be true, but this is a balance of that Reddit. It's like, it had nothing to do with me. I'm not broke. I move on. Like I'm go back to doing my work. But somebody else that read it and they felt almost slighted by it, or maybe because they make money off this grift or this idea of financial trauma, so they personally felt attacked from it. That's because they had almost like an unhealthy attachment with the idea, and maybe they need to unpack that.
But question, what made you?
Hey, that was a pun.
I know
to unpack that.
I know.
I'm a jerk.
But what actually made you want to tweet that specifically in terms of like just financial trauma in general? Is something you've been thinking about?
I've been writing about it. One, because I think this month is financial. No, it's mental health awareness. Mental health awareness. Last month was financial literacy, and somewhere in between, at least in the financial space, I think they're diving into, I guess, trauma within money or something. Mm-hmm. So I kind of go off of these like monthly topics very slightly, but then again, like every month I drop in the same type of information. If you've read anything, and other people have quote unquote call me out or even say they don't like what I write here and there for years. Because I've always been a proponent of somebody like solving their issues. So everything that I post, if you see on my IG when I post about these quotes from very famous, very successful people, they've said almost the same thing, that you have to solve and resolve your problems. This is not new to me to share this idea or these fundamentals. This is not something out of the ether of nowhere land. And I'm doing this because of quote unquote clout chasing, or I'm attacking somebody or clickbait. I write about this stuff for the last 10 years. And for 10 years, I could tell you, based on the experience, I've noticed that people are going in circles. They're going around the block thinking it's new all day, every day. They call it something different. I think at one point it was known as money trauma or money behaviors or something like that, money traits or financial traits. And then we change it. And now we're co-opting it and we're rebranding it as financial trauma. But at the end of the day, it's just trauma, or it's just people almost unwilling to change or accept things that in their lives are beyond them to change as well. It's almost like they're trying to play God on all levels, whereas you're not God. You can't control other people's behaviors. You can't control other people like you or don't like you. You can't control anything besides what you put out in the world in regards to your productivity to actually pay your bills. And if you're not paying your bills, I don't care how many people retweet, likes you, and support you and cheer you on. When the bills are due, you're gonna be sitting there like, damn, the likes is not gonna pay for it. The blue check, the credibility on social media is not gonna pay for the house you don't have. The rent, the food in your fridge, or the way that you feel at the end of the day when you go to sleep or you wake up and you feel like absolutely garbage. Those kind of things are not fixed by the echo chamber. So for me, when I post, I don't post for likes. I don't post for fanfare. I don't post for friends giving, like or whatever it is. If people don't like it, people don't like it. If you guys don't like it, you guys don't like it. It is what it is. This is just my opinion, my thoughts, my ideas, and the way that I live my life. And if it's wrong, shit, I'm gonna keep living it, because I've seen other people that told me that I was wrong in the past. And I'm like, they're super broke and they're super struggling. And I've been telling them the same thing for years, but they refuse to listen. So I'm gonna keep going down my path because I'm actually having results.
But you don't think, LG, but you don't think that you just that is gonna get a little bit of stir. Like before you hit,
but it's a thing. It is to get the stir or it doesn't get the stir. It doesn't pay my bills, man. It's not even important to me. In that level of, I don't sleep with this like a lot of these people probably would end up doing, right? I slept knowing that the stock market had an amazing day. It ramped up amazingly, and I'm pushing towards my goals. I don't care too much in the end of the day how many friends and followers and unfollowers that I have. I care less how many retweets, tweets, or how many traction that I have with the audience and so on and so forth. I don't care. This is not. I actually have a real job. I don't do this for the money. And some of them they're trying to do for the money and they just don't have it. So, it is what it is. I can see why they're mad. It's not that difficult.
Oh Jesus! Like get canceled before TSG.
And yet I'll be like, I still don't care. Like, it's like, I think that's what they don't understand. Like, there's some people in this world that are so fixated on results that the other people could have a myriad of opinions and it still wouldn't matter to them. And I think that's the group I'd rather be in. I'd rather be in that group of people that just don't care. They care about the results. They care about maintaining their family. They care about maintaining their household. Maybe they're the friends that are around them that are really good friends. Beyond that, nothing else matters. And I think part of it too is not something super new. This is the same reason that my family is like, I'm damn near the outcast of my family. That's probably the reason from jump what it's always been. I'm Haitian by birth or heritage. I'm Brazilian a little bit on the other side. I've always been a little bit too combative. I was in the Marine Corps, in which I was even combative in the Marine Corps. So I've never been not me. So if you're seeing this for the first time and you feel like, oh, I can't believe he said this, like I'm unlike other people, I'm unafraid to say what I feel or to know or even stand on my own, no matter who it is. I don't care if it's 100 people against me. I've actually stood, I guess the main one I ever almost fought like 3 Marines. Might have been even 4, but it was like 3 at the door. I think there was a guy behind him or something like that. But I was like, man, if it's going to be the day that I die here, man, it's going to be a day that I die. I'm that kind of guy. Like, I didn't back up. I didn't kind of like cower. I don't like regress for anybody. I don't do that. I don't know. I just don't care. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, no.
I'm like, I
That
just
makes
don't.
sense.
And I guess the last point I tell people, I've been at gunpoint 2 times, if 3, if I really want to count one more. But at the end of the day, and each time I've never been one to back up and be scared. That's just not me. So if that's you, that's you. I ain't mad at you. I actually, I'm like, it is what it is, but that's just not me. I know it went far deep into
No, it's
Alainta's like, I don't know how to respond to that. I was like, I don't know how to respond.
it's not that. I'm just processing everything. And again, for me, it's a lot of things I see on social media, and a lot of people just commentary and different beliefs and thought processes and everything. Even if I may not agree with you, I truly, honestly don't care. I think it took me to a level to say that I'm not triggered by it. Like I don't, it's not a thing. But I think in this scenario, because this person entire, brand is because of this, it's almost like, hey, what are you talking about? Like this is true. This is something that is real. And I can kind of get and understand on that level, but easily I can see where when you're constantly discussing trauma and trauma like all the time without a solution base, there is a part of you where you have to come to in agreement with yourself and even your life story to heal from that trauma. At least try to. And if you're healing from that trauma, do you always have to constantly talk about it? That's something I always think about too, because if you move forward, how can you move forward if you're continuously talking about things that have not really confronted in the past, right? So yeah, it went semi-viral. If you follow Lawrence, the neighborhood finance guy, retweet, he got a lot of people up in arms about it. But
it was so sad for them. It was a sad moment.
It's like I'm looking at them like, what? What is going on?
Look at the sadness. Look at the one person is like, I guess she's trying to, and it's always interesting how people communicate, especially in our community, in the Black community. If I had to be specific about it, first, you might not like what somebody's had to say, right? So you're completely opposed of it, and then for some reason, because they don't immediately somewhat like acquiesce to you, you start calling them, names, or start making fun of them, or so on and so forth. And I think one girl tried to do that, and I just found it like kind of odd. And I just told her, like, hey, I guess to them, or my typos or grammatical errors or something like that. I'm like, I fess up to my typos and grammatical errors. Shit, English is my 3rd language out of 5. And he's like, oh, what? That's a weird flex. I'm like, hey, if you think it's a flex,
you was flexing a bit on that.
No, but
you was.
But that's not how she felt about it, because maybe she only speaks one language. But she was trying to make it seem like I'm an idiot, and I'm like, hey, I don't know about you, but I'm not. I'm far from an idiot, but I do make mistakes, and I'm fine by it. But things that I stick on, or I actually believe in, I'm just gonna stick behind it 110%. So the way that she's trying to frame it, I guess the whole Gabrielle Union thing, or, oh yeah, what about what Gabrielle Union said? I'm like, I don't give a shit what Gabrielle Union said. Sorry for the curse word. It is what it is. Like, Gabrielle Union is I guess a micro celebrity-ish in the Black film, in the Black realm, and we love celebrity worship, but I've never been one for that. I could care less what she said, what she drank yesterday, what she didn't say, who she slept with, who she didn't sleep with, what money she tossed out the window, what money she smoked out her butt. I have no idea, and I don't care. So for her to bring that up, I was like, I don't know what you mean by, oh, but she talked about this recently. I'm like, I don't care what she talked about recently. She also has I'm not going to leave it at that, but she also has other issues that she, was very public here and there about. So there's a lot of things about her that I don't necessarily agree with, and I'm going to leave it. I don't care. But for her to kind of frame it as if Gabrielle Union is somehow indicative of every person, of people that she runs in circles with, is kind of odd, because this is a multimillionaire that has really much fake issues, first world issues. Oh, she has financial trauma. I think she could solve that if she wanted to.
He was like, yeah, I'm not a millionaire talking about,
it's a multi-millionaire, talking about I have issues. I'm like, you either solve it, you don't. I don't know if you just want to have issues to completely keep, to stay relevant or stay active and engage. But I just don't find it productive to talk about what Prince Harry, or I think his name's Harry, or maybe it's Edwards.
I think it's Harry.
Is Harry?
Right?
Okay, Prince
Meghan
Harry
and Harry, right? Yeah,
and Meghan Markle is driving around in New York or something. And I'm like, I don't care about this news, but yet it's being purported as something we need to completely absorb as part of our lives. Like, I don't know. There was multiple instances in that I guess the back and forths that I had with some people that made no sense, and even to a point where one guy is like, "Oh, I guess he tried to make it seem like I was getting an attitude with him, but his retweet was actually basically saying that, oh, I guess this guy's an idiot or something." I'm like, you hit me up with that energy. You don't know me from X, Y, and Z, so I'm gonna hit you back up with the same energy you give me. That's always been my thing. Like, if you're gonna give me energy, man, I'm gonna give you the same with that one. If you said, "Hey, Lawrence, can you explain more? Can you elaborate?" Then we could get in a conversation about it. But nobody actually even said that. They just basically, it maybe except Steven to a certain point. Steven Huge, maybe it's Huge.
Hey, what Jay-Z comments you said in the past?
Jay-Z was a drug dealer. Mm-hmm. Jay-Z was a drug dealer that destroyed people's lives, and I basically don't respect him for it. And I think that person loves Jay-Z at that point, and they was pretty pissed off about it. And like, "Oh, I can't believe you said that about Jay-Z." I'm like, you don't even know Jay-Z. Like, you don't know Jay-Z from Adam to apples. Like, you just worship this guy, but he destroyed people's lives, in which he confesses to it. This is not me making this up. He says he used to sell the rocks. Do you know who these people that bought the rocks are? These are people with real families that he destroyed on his way to becoming super successful. I'm not saying that he hasn't earned his success. I'm saying that he destroyed people on the way. And I actually have a moral barometer where I'm like, I'm good. Am I going to, I even told him at that time, I think we were having a conversation. I told him, "Yo, I'm not going to protest Jay-Z down the street. You won't find me doing that. But if you're going to have a conversation about him, I'm going to just stay straight up. I don't really care for him." And it's like you also do to my, to Nas. And when he dropped his couple of diss tracks about him, the ether was so powerful that I'm like, man, Nas won that one. And I don't think I ever cared for Jay-Z since.
Oh, okay.
Where is that one at? There's another one? It's a conversation about me and Jay-Z.
No, I did research.
You did research?
People talking, the streets, the internet streets were talking. I'm like, what comment? So yeah, that's what I was asking.
Wow, so they still gotta, like, this was like months ago. Do you see what I mean about people that hold on to things that makes no sense at all?
You're definitely being labeled controversial.
I don't even know who it was. I actually don't remember who it was. I just remember that person.
I don't know who it was too, but they mentioned about Jay-Z comment. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. So I'm just asking you.
It's like, you imagine somebody that talked about, shoot, I don't even say Beyonce. I guess I'm trying to find like somebody. If I made a statement about what Michelle Obama said or something like months ago, and somebody's like still holding a grudge years later about Michelle Obama, like, "Oh, Lawrence said about this." I'm like, damn, you got like some real serious issues. You're defending this person as if you know them. As if they pay your bills. As if like what I said is completely off. Like, I made it up. Like, that this guy was selling drugs to the community, of which he admits to. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I actually have that moral barometer. Maybe some people don't. I think that's part of the conversation too. It went to the weird, I guess, "Oh, my friends sold drugs." I'm like, that's nice. And I don't have no respect for your friends. Like, there's people in the community that I'll never have respect for. People that kill people in the community, especially in, quote unquote, black on black crime, so on and so forth. I have no respect for. People that, I guess sell drugs in the community, no respect for. Well, that's the only thing that they, the only option that they had. No, that wasn't the only option. It was the easiest option that they had. And it was the option that they felt they could have done. But they could have chose other ways as well, but it didn't. I don't know.
Yeah, it got really really strange on these Twitter spaces. And I don't even tweet like that. Like, I have a Twitter, of course, but when I see what's going on, I'm like, what is this? What is Yes.
I'm gonna have to like
on?
find these rogue tweets somewhere so I can laugh about them.
So you can laugh about it.
Hey, I'm weird. I'm just going there and like laugh. I guess I'm also on the other guy's wavelength, David Goggins. Like he's a little bit more extreme. Like he said he found a lot of the worst tweets about him, or a lot of the worst comments, replies, and he actually I guess spoke them into like a recorder, and he plays them as he works out. So I'm like, that's
Really?
Yeah, that's part of like one of the stories that he had, because he just found it funny, because these people don't know him, but they'll make a lot of comments about him, about just because he has a position about something and a story to tell from his perspective, and to yet again, and you find it over and over in social media, or even like on, and people talk about it. This very odd. The people that are proposing to be the most welcoming, the most understanding of different points of view, perspectives, are the first ones to attack viciously because you don't share the same opinion as they do. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, the most hypocritical thing I've ever seen. Very ironic, but they're the main ones that are a little bit unhinged, in my opinion.
Ooh, child. Are you gonna take a slight weekend break from the Twitter Spaces?
Nah.
You like, I'm still going
you know
in.
what? Like, and sometimes, these kind of things, I'm like, yo, I might even tweet something else about it just to kind of, piss them off and give them something to completely say, you know what, I'm gonna wash my hand of Lawrence Delva Gonzalez, because I don't care for people that don't have stomach for decent conversation versus, I don't know. Like, if you can't understand somebody has a different perspective, I don't even hang out with people that do that. So I guess it's just it doesn't matter to me, quote unquote, the bridges I burn, because I don't care about those bridges to begin with.
Gotcha.
I ain't trying to walk in that space.
I know David Chappelle said this in the past, during his stand-ups, and I seen him live last year, which was amazing. But he always, he's amazing. But he always mentioned about, like, we're just the last 10 years or so, not even 10 years, I'll say 5, 6 years or something. Once we had cancel culture, Me Too movement, and everything, which was, I think, prematurely, or at least a preliminary portion of those movements, or those spaces where it was trying to shed a light of the injustices and sexual predators and like all these things that were going on. I thought that was really cool. Finally, we're utilizing these spaces and these platforms to bring light to situations that we already knew that was happening. But moving forward, what I have noticing and have experienced, so even for you indirectly, Lawrence, is that there's a overcorrection of people just advocating, or almost like pushing down, your throat on their own belief systems, and to say that you're wrong without having a more open dialogue on why they feel like, their own position or own perspective may be correct, right? And I think that's not the way, intellectual thought should be discussed, and sometimes, for me, honestly, sometimes it's really that way, where you don't care enough to have that discussion, especially if you don't know anyone personally. But I just wish it would have been a more openly discussed thing, and not just blatantly saying you're wrong. Like, I think that you just can't have an opinion these days without someone trying to I won't say attack. I don't think attack is the word. I won't say that, but I would say that no, people get really sensitive when it comes to these things. Really sensitive. And I think I mentioned this to you before, LG, is when you post about something just normally financial literacy, very few likes. But as soon as, I'll say this too, slightly clickbait, right? Even the verbiage that you may use still broke. That sort of thing. The people see that, like, you give me a financial trauma, people see that, it does get people roused up, and I think sometimes you have to ask yourself, why are you getting roused up due to this? Knowing this person platform, knowing the person have shared other beliefs that you may have agreed, not agree, but why is this one is getting people riled up? So yeah, like we just can't have this like open dialogue, intellectual space when it comes to these things. People are always attacking, want to semi cancel someone else, and the podcast I share you guys with on the daily, but the black guy, I think he's a neuroscientist or something like that. So it's just like when you're trying to do just share your beliefs, it's like it's almost like the attempt of doing so is just wrong. Like people don't want to hear facts or people don't want to hear opinions. They're just like, no, you're just wrong, I don't know. It's not a space that I care to dive deep into.
I would say this. The problem that the space has become this way, or our communities have devolved in these ways, is because good people stop and do nothing. I think that's part of the biggest issue. It was something that Clee said years ago. It's probably the only reason I became his friend to begin with, is the way that he phrased it made so much sense to me. And I realized that the world that we lived in at the time, the reason that is as wrong as it is right now is because good people stay silent within the entire thing. And that's why I kind of challenged you at the very beginning. It's like the way that you felt, instead of just saying devil's advocate, just say how you feel. Don't say devil's advocate, say how you feel. Because that's the truth. The truth is that, hey, you felt a certain way, or you didn't feel a certain way, you felt that it was a little off, or you didn't feel. Basically, that's the truth that we all need to operate in, not almost on the sideline, but in, like, if we see it's wrong, then we call it what is wrong. I've always called out things that I felt was wrong, period. If it is wrong, call it out, move on. But we live in a space where good people don't call out nothing anymore, because they're afraid to that point, to be canceled themselves. They're afraid to be associated themselves. They're afraid to actually speak up for anything, because if you're not with the group, and somehow you are against the group. And that's fine if the group was winning. But this group that we're talking about, or even the Black community, is criminally losing, right? In regards to personal finance, their understanding of it, and the people that are being propped up or being quote unquote influencers in the space aren't really pushing any level of true change for the last 3 years, for the last 4 years, for the last 5 years or 10 years. Yeah, some people might have gotten money off of it. Yes, somebody might have got a platform off of it. But I'm always looking at the finality of it all, which is the results. What is the results? What is the whole thing at the very end? Are we actually moving forward? Are we falling behind? Are we staying the same? And if you look at the data, we're falling behind, all because of they rather have long form conversations about my opinion about this versus long form conversation about how we solve different things. And that's where we're at. And this is where we're all going to be, in my opinion, as a community, because of just the way that we interact with this information.
Without moving forward.
Yeah, it's more entertaining. I actually I found, I guess, a few people that I guess shared some stuff, and they were like, "Oh, he misspelled this. Ha 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 ha." I'm like, "Hey, he's stupid because he did that." Ha! I'm like, maybe I am. Maybe I am dumb. It's wild. It's for me to waste my time and just, I guess, do that to you. I don't know. Like, I don't know. If I had to make fun of people, I'm go in. Like, I go in. I usually just don't try to, because then it'd be like, nah. Like some Dade County stuff. We like to go. We dive into the person. We do pointless research, and hey, when we're gonna stab you, we're gonna stab you straight in the gut. We're gonna make sure you feel it. So,
I will say it's not necessarily like good people are not stepping up or staying silent. I think a lot of good people are realizing it's not worth it sometimes. Because if you are advocating for what is right, what is true to you, or what do you feel like, you can help out in saying something different, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you're saying, silent. It just means that the level of care is not dare anymore because people are vicious online, man.
But that's part of what it is.
And that's the
but that's
thing.
Also part of what it doesn't mean that you have to always engage, and that's not what I'm calling for. I'm not necessarily saying, hey, you had to come in and say something, but I'm letting you know that by virtue of not saying anything, just anybody, because there's other people that reach out to me. It's like, oh, I actually agreed. But I'm like, but you said nothing. And this is not the first time. This is years, like a good 15 years interaction with different people when I said something and somebody agreed, but they didn't, at least in the moment, they said nothing. It was the oddest thing ever. I'm like, so you chose to do nothing. This is something I remember with my sister growing up. Like when I was unfairly punished or something, she kind of like, you could tell she looked the other way a little bit. And even though she's like, even though I knew this was happening, I kind of ignored it. I'm like, oh, so you're one of those people that allowed bad things to just proceed and proliferate and get worse and worse. And I never wanted to be that way. And this is kind of how I've lived my life. So when I post, I just post for me. I don't post for everybody else. Like, I don't even know how many people even look at my stuff. Sometimes I get like one person like, hey, whatever. I just post for what it is. And I just share for what it is. So it's not about, I guess, fitting into whatever group it is. Right. I don't want to fit in. I don't want to fit in a group that's losing. That's not my thing. like it's not cool. It's not the greatest thing I want to do. I want to retire early. I want to be wealthy. And if that group itself, if that's the way the group wants to operate, in regards to some people make it to the top, some people kind of sit there, that's going to be in. So definitely want to hear Lovely's perspective on this, but she's just being in the background, just listening.
She just listens. She's doing her.
I'm writing my final paper.
Oh, okay. She's over here judging her back. She's like, But on that note, we can wrap it.
No, we're not.
I really want to know some of these people, though. I
got 3 minutes.
These retweets, though, like who's tweeting this stuff? I kind of want to know.
I just clicked on it. And I can see it on Twitter. I be playing around on Twitter, so when people direct me to stuff, I just play around on Twitter till I see it. Like you can see like a history of all that stuff. But it's been a interesting few days.
I'll share my thoughts and then we can close it off. I really enjoyed listening to this podcast as a listener. Interesting, and I think that it's important to have this conversation. Did you all watch the clip that I sent with I think her name is Ebony or Williams or her last name?
Yeah, I haven't seen it just yet.
I've seen it.
I think I've seen some parts of it. I didn't see that one yet.
Okay,
I had to listen to the other dissertations that.
Alainta was sending. So she's the woman that had the clip with Ayanna about the bus driver context, right? I didn't watch her full interview, but I did watch a contingent. I saw a short clip of her content, and then that led me to say, Breakfast Clubs. Okay, let me just listen to this real quick. So while I was doing something else today, I put it on, and the context in which she was saying was that it wasn't about the service worker or the bus driver working. It's about the fact that we're, as a Black community, that we over-index in these jobs that are not well paid. And so that's going to give us the status of being the permanent underclass. And it's actually been talked about. I think LG has written about it. It's out there. And I say this to say, this is conversation I was having with one of my friends. We can get very mad about semantics, but the statistics are the statistics. The stats are the stats. And I think what we want to do is to say, systematically, we've been oppressed. There's a million reasons why we're here where we are, but it is seldom that we talk about where we want to actually go and what we want to do. I think this conversation in Twitter is kind of like the same thing over and over. We want to be in the fields. We want to feel, which is not a bad thing, like emotionally understanding. But I said this in the group when we were talking. If you get a cut, immediately your brain sends a lot of pain signals, and trauma stuff is real, but you have to heal and move forward. And we can talk about the people that get $1 million and mismanage, But there's certain skills that you have to have that require discipline, that require reorganization. It requires making better decisions. It requires doing a lot of work that I think that oftentimes when these conversations are being pulled up, we're not talking about the actual work it takes. So when I see the back and forth and the visceral results of it, it is a problem that we have. We're not having dialogue, because I think Lauren said that, like, no one asks, well, can you further clarify what do you mean by that? Are you saying that there's no more financial trauma? Are you saying that, it cannot be handled? And a lot of times I think that's what it is. We don't understand that dichotomies can exist. Two things can be true. For example, let's, for the sake of it, financial trauma is real. What's also true, if you manage your money better and you do your work better, you might feel better about it. Reality of it, if you work out more, you eat better, you'll probably feel better. People will tell you about all the psychological things that come along with it. Those are true. But sometimes you just have to do it. When you have, like, for example, doing grad school stuff, it's due at 11:59. That's what it is. I can tell my professor I'm never returning assignments. Fine. My mom has this going on, my family. You know how many stuff that happened in the last 3 weeks? They still do. Don't do them, you're not passing classes. You don't do them, you're not getting a degree. There's some things that are just what they are. And I think our generation has suffered in this way that we don't want to confront facts. Soft life, soft life, soft life. But really, what we're really asking is for a level of ease in the wrong things. I think some things should come with ease, but a lot of things that we're asking for the ease in is a cop-out of us not having to rise to occasion. So that's just my 2 cents of it all. Continue tweeting, continue having these conversations, but at the end of the day, 1 or 2 people are either going to go home and be, because they're doing what they need to do, and some people are going to be crying because they're not in a happy place. I don't know where you land, but I hope that you actually realize that you can't just continue to always feel some type of way about something. Sometimes you just got to get it done. And I know that our generation doesn't like that talk because it's assuming that we're saying, like, your feelings don't matter and all this other stuff. But I think we're over-indexed on this front now. So
overcorrection, over-index,
you can, like, it's not funny.
Hypersensitive, a lot of overs.
Yeah, it's. I think you said it just right. I think there's something to be said about what we tighten up about, and the other stuff that we just completely let go as well. And I think that to me is a little bit odd. So for as much as I post about just any and everything all the time, like, you could like, so this was the one that gets you mad. Like, yeah, sure, whatever. Selective outwave. Like, at the end of the day, the same person, Rakeem Sabri, said financial literacy is kind of useless or something. I think that's one of his tweets or something. I thought it was a little bit weird to say, but I'm like, it's not enough for me to
financial literacy is useless. No, he did an article about it. Is it useless?
Financial literacy is not. I think that's what he meant by it, though.
No, he said he did an article. I thought.
But that's not what the tweet says. Oh shoot.
I don't know.
You gotta go. That's not what the tweet said.
No, I don't want to misquote him. That's why I'm just saying, like, what did it actually say? I don't think it said that.
Well, the quote, and I'll probably find it fairly quickly, is out there. So he writes about trauma all the time, financial trauma. Oh, unpopular opinion. That's his. That's what he said. Unpopular opinion, semicolon, whatever. Financial literacy will not solve all your financial problems. That was his stuff. I'm like, okay.
Oh, okay. That's what he said.
Yeah, see, maybe I should have probably. Oh, that's why I need to do unpopular opinion. and hey, everybody was like, "That's a fine tweet. It's a fine tweet." Maybe that's what I need to do next time. I was like, unpopular opinion, my own opinion, but yeah, I don't mind. At least at this point, when they kind of go at me in a certain way, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do what I do, which is like, hey, no holds bars, man. Anybody could get it. If you come at me, anybody could get it. I call your name. I'll bring you out. I'll give you exactly what you need. Because a lot of people are also very much they have a parasocial relationship with their their followership and the internet and the people that they find value and likes in. So, you know what? I hope that it pays their bills. I know it really doesn't for a lot of them, but hey, I hope it pays their bills one day.
Of course, he has to end it that way.
LG just passive.
You seen that?
It's passive aggressive. Nah, I don't know. I find it funny. Like, to me, anybody, like, for real, I really take my wife, I crack jokes about this. I find this thing pretty hilarious. I have a really good sense of humor about stuff, and I really sleep well at night. I don't hold anything that somebody said last week, this week, or even 2 seconds away from me. Maybe I just, I know this is where you stand at, but I don't hate you for it. This is what you do.
This is what you do, Sean. This is what you do. What if you made it this
far to the rant?
This far.
People was like, man, I fell off. I don't even listen to this financial stuff.
My gosh. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of Financial Griot. We thank you. We love you guys for listening and who's continuously downloading, like 10 of you guys. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. You can find me on IG streets at Alainta_Alcin. And sometimes on Twitter, whoever may direct me there, because I'm not really on there. And I don't get hypersensitive on whatever you post. So, because I have a real life that I am trying to live. What about you, LG?
Yeah, you can find me on any of these social media platforms until I'm canceled or until I'm become like a multimillionaire, one or the other. Either way, you could definitely link up with me. But as always, I definitely want to see you win and you take action, because no matter what this conversation goes, if you're not taking action in your own personal finances, none of it is actually going to work. So definitely take that time, slow it down, make sure you're doing what you need to do every week. And I bet you your life will improve for it. Maybe by a little and maybe by a lot, but as long as you're getting some improvement, that's all that matters. Where can they find you, Lovely?
You can find me on Lovely Merdelus everywhere, anywhere.
Thanks again for tuning in. TFG, we're out.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Griot podcast, powered by the Wealth Builders Collective.